Welcome to One More Hour, the podcast all about backyard ultras, timed races, and the ultra running mindset of going one more. If you're an ultra runner, a trail or ultra runner curious about the format, or just someone who loves to test your limits, you're in the right place. I'm Jackie Wilson, an ultra marathon and marathon run coach, trail runner, outdoor enthusiast, and backyard ultra expert. On this show, I'll bring you stories, strategies, and conversations with runners, race directors, experts, and more to help you go further, dig deeper, and keep going when everything in you says stop. Thank you so much for joining me for some yards. Let's get started with one more. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the One More Hour podcast. If you are training for your first backyard or you're considering one, this episode is one that you want in your pocket. And if you're still figuring out the backyard format, you've ran some in the past, keep listening to see if you're making one of these mistakes that we're going to be talking about today. These races are beautifully simple and deceptively hard. And I feel like there's always something that we're trying to learn and figure out. And that's one of the things that I love about the backyard format. So I've been getting a lot of questions on Instagram from those who are intrigued about the format or those who have even signed up for their first backyard ultra. If you are one of those people, congratulations for signing up for your first backyard ultra, taking that first step to doing something very hard, something challenging, but also something very intriguing and exciting to look forward to in 2026. Most first timers don't get timed out. They're not on the course when that clock hits the top of the hour. They fall into avoidable pacing, mindset, and fueling traps. Now, we've touched on each of these. We have an entire episode on pacing. Every episode touches on mindset, and we have an entire episode with Kayla Fitzgerald on fueling. So check out those episodes. But today we're really going to break down the 3 biggest mistakes new backyard runners make and exactly how to avoid them so you can stay in the race longer than you thought was possible. So let's dive into these 3 traps. Trap number 1 is pacing like it's a race. First timers almost always come in with road race instincts or even the instinct of having ran maybe a 50K, a 50-mile, 100-mile race before, and you're trying to run it as fast as you possibly can, even though, yes, that involves hiking and walking. But those instincts, they're exact opposite of what a backyard demands, right? Like you have 60 minutes to complete 4.167 miles, and you don't want to be running that loop in 35 minutes. You're using up unnecessary energy very quickly to spend more time back at camp and to cool down and to basically have to start the process all over again like you did in yard 1. But now you may be 20 yards in and you're really starting to feel that cool down effect and that stiffness set in and that energy expenditure that you used up earlier on the race because you were running through them so fast. So this is what the trap looks like. It is starting out too fast because you feel good. It is hammering the first few loops like it's a marathon. Maybe you haven't practiced the strategy of run walking and what does really 4.167 miles feel like in 60 minutes. Maybe you are skipping walk breaks because you don't need them yet, or because there aren't hills, or because you don't want to walk or hike. You are burning way too much energy early on than necessary. So what's the problem with this? You're not trying to run a fast loop. You're trying to show up at the top of every hour, ready to go again and again and again. That's the entire concept of the backyard ultra, is showing up hour after hour after hour. How long can you do that? And in the backyard, consistency beats speed every single time. Yes, there are the elite runners, the Phil Gores, who are running fast loops, but he also talks about taking recovery loops, and you have to consider his fitness level in comparison to the everyday runner. And an everyday runner should not be running 4.167 miles during your backyard ultra in 35 minutes. So here is my advice for this mistake. Build in walk breaks from the very beginning. Like yard 1. I know it feels very counterintuitive to racing a road race, racing a 50K, even racing a 50-mile race, but yes, it's going to feel too easy. And it should feel super easy. Like you should have that feeling of like, I do not want to walk right now, but I know I need to because future you or 10 you, hour 16 you will be so grateful that you did. If your loop has hills, that's a natural walk spot. If it's flat, create a plan ahead of time and structure a run-walk strategy for you. Protect your heart rate. Keep it as easy as possible. Keep your heart rate as low as possible. Protect your legs. Protect your mind. Keep it super easy. So please remember that you're not racing the loop. You're pacing the day. You're pacing 24 hours and then maybe another 24 hours and another 24 hours. There's no racing involved to see who can finish your yard faster and who can finish it first. Usually those people that are finishing it first tend to peter out because they are exhausted. They are spending more energy than necessary, and they see that DNF faster than some who are taking walk breaks from the very beginning and who are pacing themselves to go as far as possible. Trap number 2 is letting the mind win the DNF. I talk about this a lot, but trap number 2 is probably the biggest one for first timers and also for veterans. Like veterans fall into this, and this is one of the biggest obstacles of the backyard ultra. Most DNFs in a backyard ultra do not happen during the loop. They do not happen out in the course. They happen in the chair and in between the loops. The runner sits down. They start thinking like, gosh, this feels really good to sit down. I'm comfortable. My bed sounds really good right now. I'm tired. It feels good to get off my feet. Why am I doing this? I can't go back out. I'm done. I'm tired. I want to go to bed. And that's where the race ends. I have a sign that I put on my chair that says, do not quit in the chair. I actually might have it here with me. Yep, I have it right here. Don't quit in the chair. And then I modified it and I crossed out the chair and I said, don't quit with time on the clock. That is the goal, okay? That is the goal. Because don't quit in the chair is very different from don't quit with time on the clock. And I'll talk about that in a second. But a lot of people quit in the chair. They say, I'm done. Or they get up and they're in the starting corral for the next yard, knowing that they're going to cross that start line and turn right back around and be done. If you have 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 2 minutes left on the clock when you came back in from your last yard, get back out there. Do not leave time on the clock. You can keep going. You can walk more. There's no problem with walking more. That's part of going further, right? That's part of ultra running. That's part of the backyard format. Walking allows you to go further. So your legs may have another 10 hours in them, but the mind taps out first. So here's a pro tip. Expect mental lows. Don't be surprised by them. They are not a sign that something is wrong. They are normal. They are part of ultra running. They are part of the backyard formats. Expect them. Practice that in training. We talked about this in the last episode about the 5 mental traps that backyard runners experience and fall into. And one of them is the mental low. You need to expect that it's going to happen at some point in time. You need to train yourself to ride those lows, to ride the waves, to push through the wave, to push through the valley and get to the next mountain peak. You have to push through that low to experience the next high. You don't know if that's going to be in 1 hour or 2 hours or 3 hours, but more likely than not, it's going to happen if you allow yourself to stay in the game, to stay in the race, and push through the low that you're experiencing. You need to have a plan for how you're going to respond when your brain says, I can't do this anymore. That's something you have to practice in training, because you have to train your brain to switch from I can't do this to I can go out for one more loop and I'm going to see how I'm going to feel, and I'm just going to walk and I'm going to grab more fuel and hydration, and we're just going to see how this hour goes. And more times than not, the answer is yes. You can do one more yard, and a lot of times your energy picks up because you start realizing like, oh, I am actually doing this. I didn't know what I could do, but I am doing this. And then you can do another hour and another hour, and it keeps on going. And that's one of the reasons how you push through those lows. So maybe your plan is to not sit in the chair or stand up immediately, walk to the corral, and start the loop. Reassess in 5-10 minutes once you're actually getting warmed up, because you can get stiff. You can start slowly moving across the start line out of the corral when that whistle blows for the top of the hour. And you may not feel good right there, but if you give it 5 to 10 minutes to get blood flow going, to work out that stiffness, like reassess after that point. Don't gauge how you feel at second one of the next hour. And more times than not, your mind will settle once you start moving, once you start feeling good again. In backyards, the mental game matters more than the fitness. Yes, you have to train properly, you have to have adequate mileage, you have to be strength training and doing mobility work and all of these things, but you can have a very high fitness level but not have a very good mental game, and the mental game is going to take you out. If you can control the chair, you can control your race. So one more thing that I want to touch on, again, as I mentioned about a minute ago, is the sign about not quitting in the chair and crossing out in the chair and writing with time on the clock. Don't quit with time on the clock. Don't leave time on the clock. What I mean by that is, originally I did not want to end my yard sitting in my chair and not start the next loop. I wanted to start the next loop because I fell into the beginner mistake of leaving 10 minutes left on the clock in my last yard and saying, I'm too tired, I can't, I'm not going to go anymore. I don't want my friend to continue risking his results for his 100 miler coming up. I'm going to be done. And that was a mental battle for me in my second backyard, because I had given myself permission to leave time on the clock in my first backyard. So my second backyard, when I started to feel really down and low at 2 a.m. and stiff, I left 8 minutes left on the clock. I had plenty of time to slow down a little bit, to walk a little more, and to keep going. I don't know how much farther I could have gone, but I know that I could have done multiple loops after that by just walking more. So that was my goal after that for my third, fourth, and fifth backyard, was to not leave time on the clock. Although I started the next yard, I just turned around in backyard number 2 and backyard number 1. So my last backyard, I had 10 seconds left on the clock. I turned around and went back out. And the next yard, I had a little under a minute left, but I was also risking severe dehydration. I was thinking about rhabdo, and that's when I called it quits. But that was my goal, was not to leave 5 minutes, 10 minutes on the clock and call it quits. I wanted to finish out and basically run the clock out for that yard. So don't quit in the chair, but don't leave time on the clock. That's a huge mistake that first timers make, and even veterans make. You quit with 5 minutes left on the clock. Trap number 3 is feeling like it's a marathon. I see this mistake over and over and over again for first timers, but also people who are going from the roads to the trails, the roads and marathon distance to ultras to 50Ks. but also those who have raced fast 50Ks, 50 miles, 100-mile races, and who are going to the backyard format. Fueling is different, and it's a mistake that's very common. So also don't feel bad if you have made that mistake. I made that mistake in my first ultra, was trying to rely only on sports nutrition and sweet things. It does not go well after 8 hours. So the mistake is gels only, sports nutrition, sports drinks, lower calorie, I'll eat real food later. The real truth is, once you're, again, into 8 hours, 10 hours, it's not enough. You don't want to eat sweet stuff. Sometimes you get sores in your mouth. Your teeth get disgusting, of which you should bring a toothbrush and toothpaste and brush your teeth during your ultras. But your body also needs some food of substance. Your brain needs it. Your mood needs it. Your longevity of the race depends on more than just sports nutrition. Now, yes, it is very good to be able to throw back gels and to take your experience from the road races or racing fast point-to-point distances, but you need variety, and you also need a steady intake for backyard ultras. And if you can combine the sports nutrition with foods of substance, mashed potatoes, broth, simple carbs of real food, you're going to thrive. So start fueling early with foods that are easy to digest and sit in your stomach. One of the best pieces of advice that I was given for nutrition was structure your day as if you would if you were working or you're back at home, and have meals. Plan for lunch, plan for dinner, plan for breakfast. Have those structured into your nutrition plan instead of just throwing caution to the wind and relying on sports nutrition and being random with, oh, I want a piece of French toast, or I want some mashed potatoes. Like, structure your day with meals based on the timing of the day. Real food carbs are your best friend. Please go listen to the episode we did with Kayla Fitzgerald, the endurance nutritionist, all about nutrition in ultra running, in backyard ultras. It is a very popular episode with a wealth of information. And make sure you're also following Kayla on Instagram. But mashed potatoes, pretzels, rice balls, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, broth, fruit, noodles, ramen is very popular. Broth always hits the spot. Anything that's simple, salty, easy on the gut. You want variety. You want crunchy. You want sweet. You want salty. You want savory. You want bland foods. This is part of training too, is practicing fueling, figuring out what foods you really want in the middle of the night. Practice eating while moving. Train your guts. Practice eating when you're tired. Practice fueling early. Again, as I mentioned in the last episode, one of the mistakes that beginners make is not fueling in the first few hours because they feel good. But the fuel that you take in hour 1 is going to help you in 10 hours because you're not digging yourself a hole in hour 1, hour 2, hour 3. If you rely only on gels and sports nutrition products, you're going to burn out from eating these sweet products. And you need a fueling strategy that's going to support hours, if not days, instead of racing a fast marathon, a fast 50-mile, a fast 100-mile race. Okay? So, again, please go listen to the episode all about nutrition for ultras and backyard ultras. So here's the bottom line. Backyard ultras are not one with speed. They're not one with perfect fitness. They're being interrupted by a dog right now. They're one with strategy, patience, and mindset. So if you are a first timer, if you have signed up for a backyard ultra, if you're thinking about it, focus on these three things. And if you have done backyard ultras before, if you've ran ultras, think about these things and if there's anything that you're missing. Pace smart. Do not burn out your race in the first few hours or the first 6 hours or the first 12 hours. I've seen time after time after time runners who run too hard and they can't make it more than 10, 12 hours because they're using up more energy than they're used to, and they're spending way too much time sitting around, standing around at camp. Play the long mental game. Control the chairs, expect the low, and stand up no matter what. Get out there, and don't leave any time on the clock, okay? Fuel like an ultra, not a marathon. You are trying to go as far as possible, go as long as possible, and in order to do that, you're not going to be eating gels for 24, 48 plus hours. Real food, incorporate it into your day. Make sure that you're incorporating meals into your meal times. Focus on carbs, focus on sodium, focus on variety. If you do these things, I promise you, you're going to surprise yourself with how far you can go in the backyard format. And if you want help with the mental side, please check out our latest episode as well as the free guide that I have offered in the show notes. It is the top 5 mental traps backyard runners fall into. Until next time, just go one more hour. Thanks for tuning in to One More Hour. If you enjoyed this episode, hit follow so you don't miss the next yard. And share it with a runner who loves pushing their limits. I'd love to hear your own stories of going one more. Connect with me on Instagram at the One More Hour Podcast. And if you could leave a quick review, it'll help more runners find the show and keep going when they want to stop. Until next time, just go one more hour.